comment,
and subscribe for more content.
Where's the notification bell?
It's to the right of you.
Oh.
What's up, guys? Welcome to this edition of a Funko Popcast. I'm DK Wrestler.
And I am MD Shady.
And in today's podcast, we don't have as much Funko Pop announcements as we'd like to talk about, which is a little understandable because we just got off the cuffs of New York Comic Con exclusives, which were pretty fire for the most part. But today we do have a decent selection, though, to discuss about on this podcast. So obviously, well worth listening to us talk about these pops. But also today, we might as well also bring back a segment we haven't had in, I would like to say, 2 months to kick off the podcast, which is What's the Haps? But something to look forward to on the podcast the next couple of weeks. Next week will be our top 10 Funko Pops of October 2021, which some of the pops kicking off that podcast, actually, we were just looking at those Yu-Gi-Oh pops, and those are going to be some fire pops to discuss about to kick off next week's podcast, but also to bring up because we haven't discussed about it on the pod yet, but we did recently announce that our next and last fandom-related podcast of 2021 happens 2 weeks from today's podcast release, which is on Monsters, Inc., and I am pumped about this podcast. Great way to end off 2021 with a fandom-related podcast. Announcements about 2022 fandom-related podcasts will be announced soon on the channel at some point. But without further ado, let's kick off with that segment, What's the Haps? For the first time in pretty much 2 months, which for those brand new to the podcast, What's the Haps? We basically talk about what's been happening in our lives the last recent while, I guess, or the last week, depending on how much we actually remember, which I know I didn't write much, but MD, what's the Haps with you?
Okay, so I did actually write some things down. It's not a whole lot, but I guess I will get to it. So first and foremost, always working. I was actually into overtime this week because of some things with people kind of missing at my work. So that's good. Love overtime. Love to bank some money. And obviously I get to spend more money on Funko Pops now that I have extra money, I guess. So yeah, been working quite a bit. I also have been setting up a movie room, which I don't think I've really discussed on the podcast. I kind of have an extra room now, so I figured why not turn it into kind of a movie room. So I painted the whole room gray. I threw up a bunch of different movie posters. I brought like my huge VHS collection and all my DVDs in there. I hooked my Xbox up in there because I figured that's just an easy way to game and have a DVD player. Obviously, my VCR is in there. I have a candy machine because I think I talked about the candy machines on the pod before. I have that stocked with a bunch of candy. I recently picked up this really cool kind of Kinder shelf that you'd see in stores holding Kinder eggs, and I have that loaded up with snacks, and this movie room is looking sweet. It's an awesome place to kind of just kick back and relax after work, so I'm super happy about that, and it's finally coming along. And recently I've realized that with my Amazon Fire Stick, I can actually watch AEW. So I've been watching AEW as I can, and God, I love AEW. I knew I already did love AEW from what I had seen of it, but now that I can actually watch it like every episode, I'm just falling in love with the characters and some of the storylines, I guess you could say. Man, is it ever refreshing. I've also been watching NHL now that the regular season is in progress, and oh my God. I've also watched the first 2 episodes of Squid Game, and I'm enjoying it. It's not really something that I'd normally watch, but I'm really liking it. The English kind of dub isn't terrible. I've heard a lot of bad things, and I think with what they have, they did a pretty good job on it. The show is pretty great. I know a lot of people have watched it all the way through, and I definitely need to get on finishing it because I feel like there's only like 10 episodes, so 8 more to go. I also just the other night rewatched Hamilton, and what a work of art that is. I mean, I loved it the first time, and it didn't fall anything short of excellent the second time as well. I mean, just so great. I do really love rap music, and it is kind of stylized in sort of a hip-hoppy kind of play / musical, so that's really, really great, and the story is just amazing. It's just a perfect freaking, I don't even know what to call it. I guess a theater performance. I also recently just watched Ghostbusters 1. Obviously not for the first time, but I haven't seen it in many a years. So I rewatched 1 and awesome movie, obviously. And I will be watching Ghostbusters 2 probably tonight if I had to guess. For games, I really haven't been playing a lot of games. I've been playing Pokemon Go because I'm always playing Pokemon Go every single day. I have been playing a little bit of golf here and there, not real life golf because we're getting close to the end of the season here in Canada, but I have been playing golf on my Xbox, and that's always a good game. This upcoming Sunday, I will be going to Fan Expo Toronto, so expect some content from there. I would like to film a pop hunt, and I mean, there's a lot of really exciting things going on there. I will be meeting the Trailer Park Boys, which is going to be so sweet. Too bad we don't have Trailer Park Boys pops yet because I would definitely get those signed. And then a week after that, I will be going to Niagara Falls Comic Con, and I hope that'll be exciting too. And I might end up filming some kind of video there as well. And I feel like my pop haul from both of those kind of events will be pretty spectacular. So, DK, what's the haps with you?
This past weekend, I've seen Halloween Kills in the theaters, which if you guys want to hear my thoughts on that, we actually just released today as we are recording this podcast, a video that I did of a movie and Funko Pop review of Halloween Kills, where I discuss my thoughts on the movie and a potential lineup of pops and what I feel like I would want them to do in a Halloween Kills lineup if Funko made the lineup for pops. Recently, I just watched, and it took me a few weeks, maybe even a month, it's been out now, is the final season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine released, and I watched it, and I'm still trying to process what happened. Pretty crazy season, pretty funny, honestly. So it was good to see some Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And then basically all I've been doing is shredding Fortnite basically every single day, trying to rack up some of those battle stars so I can unlock Carnage, which I'm like super close. I think as this podcast gets released, I probably would have Carnage by now, honestly. Yeah, that's all I've been doing. Halloween Kills, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Fortnite as of late. Some other things I can't exactly remember. Anyways, we will now kick off with the first set of Funko Pop announcements, which range from October 6th up until October 11th, which first off, Toys R Us Canada had announced their own exclusive pop of Jeffrey as Robin for the Ad Icons lineup, which this has since sold out on the Toys R Us website, and it's unknown at this moment if they have landed in stores yet. Then on October 7th, FYE had announced their own exclusive pop of a Venomized Doctor Doom for the Venom lineup, which has a 1-in-6 glow-in-the-dark chase, and it's expected to release at some point this month, maybe even already actually released at this point. On that same day, Walmart had announced their own exclusive pops of an Undead Gage and Church glow-in-the-dark pop from Pet Cemetery, and they also announced 10-inch variants of Team USA, Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird, which all three of these pops are expected to release as early as January 2022. Then on October 8th, Funko had announced a huge wave of What If pops, which we have common pops of Infinity Killmonger, Blade of Thanos Gamora, Frost Giant Loki, Captain Carter, and then we have exclusive pops of a new variant of Infinity Ultron, which would be going to GameStop, Ravager Thanos, which would be going to Target, another version of Infinity Killmonger, which would be going to the Funko shop, Zola Vision, which would be going to Target, and then we have The Watcher, which would be going to the Funko shop. And these are expected to release as early as December 2021. Then on October 11th, Funko had announced a wave of pops for the upcoming Disney movie Encanto, which this set has pops of Isabella, Julieta, Louisa, Mirabel, Bruno, Antonio, and Abuela Alman. All last names are Madrigal, which these are expected to release as early as December 2021. On that same day, Funko had announced the 6th of 7 Bounty Hunter Pop Deluxe Pops, and it's of Zuckus, which this, of course, will be a GameStop exclusive in both Canada and the US, and it's expected to release as early as January 2022. And last but not least, for this section of Pops, we have an Artist Series Winnie the Pooh, which, of course, will be exclusive to Amazon, and this is expected to release as early as December 2021. Kicking off with the Jeffrey as Robin, which I am surprised, but not surprised. Surprised because it's like, oh, yeah, Jeffrey as a DC character. I kind of totally forgot about them. mainly because I'm not really a fan of these kinds of characters to begin with, but not surprised because every year since I want to say 2018 with the Marvel character of Jeffrey as Iron Man, they've been doing a Jeffrey the Draft Pop as a certain comic book character. So we had Iron Man in 2018 for Fan Expo. Then we had, I believe it was Batman in 2019. And then last year we had Superman Jeffrey. So this year we have Jeffrey as Robin. Who knows what we get next year? If it's maybe Jeffrey the Draft as Wonder Woman, maybe it's Cyborg, maybe it's the Flash. Who knows? But this is pretty decent. Venomized Doctor Doom. This is pretty decent. I mean, it's not a bad Venomized pop, but it's not entirely the greatest Venomized pop to begin with. This pop should have been released with that Black Friday Venomized box that we had gotten last year. The pops we ended up getting for that Black Friday box were not really the greatest. We had a sneak peek of Venomized Doctor Doom with like the pin, I think, that was featured in that box, but there should have been a pop. And I obviously am not going to say any bad things about the glow in the dark portion because it is green, and green turns out basically great all the time as terms to a glow in the dark pop. Then we have Undead Gage with Church glow in the dark pops from Pet Cemetery. This is pretty decent. I kind of want to see how this glow in the dark turns out because it's blue, but maybe the parts that glow in the dark are the eyes, which might make up for it because it's white. Who knows? But just the pops alone without even being at glow in the dark is pretty cool. Then we have the 10-inch variants of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, which these are okay. I mean, we had the 10-inch variant of Michael Jordan. That was, I'm pretty sure, also a Walmart exclusive, I believe. So I'm obviously now expecting that there's going to be the rest of that set. Those would probably be made into 10-inch form if I were to predict correctly. So these are pretty decent. The new wave of What If pops, which when I seen this set of pops, I had to go watch the remaining episodes I was missing out on for What If, just because I feel like, oh man, I'm curious about these now. And this is basically spanning the last 2 episodes. So talking about, I'm not going to talk about all of them because not all of them are, I guess, really appealing to me, but Frost Giant Loki, pretty cool. I know a lot of people were hyped about that, but I felt like because it was legit a giant in that episode, this should have been at least a 6-inch pop and not a 4-inch pop. And obviously, if it was a 6-inch pop, it would have been listed as a supersized pop on this post. But who knows? Maybe because, as you can tell with these photos, these are more of concept arts, that maybe that's subject to change. Maybe it will be a 6-inch pop. We just don't exactly know yet. The exclusive pops are pretty decent. I know a lot of people were really wanting a Ravager Thanos because this is from, I think, the second last episode, I believe. And the rest of these pops, I think, are from the very last episode of What If. And it's really cool that they made a Watcher pop because he's kind of the narrator of the entire series. And then, of course, I don't really want to spoil much because I think MD still hasn't seen What If yet. But I felt like for this, per se, the Watcher pop, which I think is my favorite pop in the entire set, this should have been, once again, maybe a 6-inch pop because he's more of a huge figure compared to everyone else. But I felt like this should have been glow in the dark because his eyes constantly glow. But I feel like what made up for it is that they made it white eyes and not, let's say, like a darker color like black or something. I feel like eventually, though, they will make a glow in the dark version for some reason, whether it's a Comic-Con exclusive or it's exclusive to some sort of other retailer. Then we have Encanto, the new Disney movie, which I was meaning to go watch the trailer in preparation for this podcast, but for some reason, I guess I just didn't have time to watch a 2-minute trailer. These are okay. Some of these look pretty decent, but I have no idea about the backstory of this movie. I know a lot of people have been sharing about the trailer, but I have no background idea of what this movie is about and what to kind of look forward to, except there's a character with a snake and a bird, and it looks like a child. So that's pretty scary. That gives me some like Jungle Book vibes there. Then we have Zuckuss from the Bounty Hunter Collection Star Wars lineup, and we kind of figured that was literally the last pop as terms of the actual 6 bounty hunters featured in Empire Strikes Back was Zuckuss. That was the last one, and now it remains a mystery for the next month per se. of who is that seventh character, because we know there was only 6 bounty hunters in that scene and Darth Vader standing with them. So people are worried it's going to end up being Darth Vader. But what if it's a bounty hunter that we kind of not really expect per se? So this is going to kind of grind up the hamster wheel per se of a lot of people's thoughts. And also that announcement I think is coming pretty soon, because on the GameStop website, I do believe they announced that the announcement will happen on, I'm pretty sure November 8th is when they'll be announcing that final pop. So I'm really curious to finally find out what that 7th pop is for the Bounty Hunter collection, whether it's Darth Vader, whether it's a bounty hunter maybe they've never made before, or it's some sort of revamp of a character we already seen in the past, but it kind of fits along with this. And we have Artist Series Winnie the Pooh, which there's nothing really to say. We went from having pretty decent Artist Series pops with the Batman ones, which I'm pretty sure were the last ones we talked about on the podcast, to coming back to what we hate about Artist Series pops. And it's showing right here with this Winnie the Pooh, where it's just one basic colors with random designs of balloons, bees, and honeybee jars. I don't know. I have nothing to say. Maybe MD has more to say, but I have nothing really to say.
Okay, starting off with the Jeffrey as Robin. This is kind of cool. I have the Iron Man and I have the Superman, I believe. Let me take a look behind me here. Yes, it's the Superman that I also have. And I've been thinking about getting that Batman. And then I was like, okay, then I'm kind of done with these Jeffrey as kind of pops. And then this came out and I don't think it's bad. I just didn't really want to buy it, but now I feel like I kind of have to. I really like the Jeffrey pops, and this one's pretty decent too. So I probably will get it because I kind of do want to complete that set. The Venomized Doctor Doom is actually pretty sweet. I don't enjoy Venomized pops too much, but this one's pretty cool. Oh, I think will be awesome. And I don't know, there's just something about it that is just nice. It's got to be in my top 3 favorite Venomized pops. That's not saying a lot though, because I'm not a huge fan. Then we have Gage and Church from Pet Cemetery. Yeah, this is a pretty cool pop, actually. Pop and Buddy pops are always pretty cool. And I think the detail in this looks nice. I kind of like these pops where it's like undead. The colors just look cool. And hopefully the glow in the dark does good. I feel like it probably will just be the eyes and it'll be a decent pop. The Magic Johnson and Larry Bird 10-inch pops. This is interesting. I don't think we necessarily need 10-inch versions of these pops, but at the same time I think like, wow, if I was a huge fan of the NBA or basketball in general, it'd be so sweet to have all of the Dream Team USA pops in 10-inch form, like on a collection with, like, let's say if you have a huge collection of basketball stuff, I think that would look really, really sweet. So it's not terrible. It's just something that I don't think a large majority of Funko fans really wanted. Moving on to What If. These are some really interesting pops, and I feel like that's what I always say about the What If pops, so I definitely need to get on to watching it. The Loki looks sweet, and I'm super interested in seeing how that kind of version of Loki came about and exactly what happens. I definitely need to watch What If, but all of these pops are looking really awesome. The Watcher is definitely a cool looking pop, and yeah, I kind of agree with what DK said, where it would have been better if it was glow in the dark eyes, but white eyes are pretty bright to begin with, so I don't think it's a bad thing. Then we have the set of pops for Disney Encanto, and this is interesting. I have never even heard of this, and these characters look pretty cool. It definitely gives me kind of a little bit of a mix of, let's say, the Hunchback of Notre Dame mixed with Coco, in my opinion, just from character designs. I have no clue about this movie, but Disney movies are usually always just amazing, so I will definitely be watching it. Will I get the pops? Probably not, unless I really, really love this movie. Zuckuss, the 6th bounty hunter we have for the bounty hunter collection. I now finally own one of the pieces to this, and that is the Boba Fett, and that pop looks really, really cool. And of course, I will be collecting the rest of them. Zuckuss is awesome. There's a lot of detail in this pop. Is it my favorite out of this set? No, but it needs to be there. And then we have the question of what will be that 7th figure. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was Darth Vader. I know Darth Vader is not really a bounty hunter, but it makes sense for the scene. So I think that might be what looks best. But then I also kind of think like, oh, it'd be really cool if it was Aura Singh, which is kind of the one I've really been wanting. Or, I mean, it could be a lot of people. It could be, I forget what her name is now, but that alien bounty hunter creature who's disguised as the female in Attack of the Clones. But that also doesn't make sense because these are Empire Strikes Back pops. And then I thought, maybe it could be Lobot. But Lobot isn't a bounty hunter either, but I think that that would kind of blend well because that is Empire Strikes Back. So I think the best thing to do would be to put the Darth Vader in there. Is that exciting? No, but it just makes a lot of sense to me. And lastly, we have the artist series Winnie the Pooh. Oh, I don't know what to even say about this. It's not a bad pop, but there's just not a whole lot to say about art series. I do like how you have the red balloon, you have a honey pot, and you have a bee. And then the blue obviously is more or less trying to represent the sky, I suppose. So that's not terrible, but I don't know. I don't know what I want to see from artist series pops, but it's definitely not this.
Are you looking for great pop protectors? Then look no further than popbox.ca. They have a variety of 4-inch and 6-inch protectors in different quantities. Do you want to get 10 protectors, 20? You can get even up to 250 pop protectors over on popbox.ca. And also use our promo code of Funko Popcast for 10% off of your entire purchase of pop protectors. The code is going on until supplies last. So go get your pop protector needs now over on popbox.ca using our code of Funko Popcast to get 10% off and also free shipping over $75 in both Canada and the US with duty fees included.
And let me tell you guys, we're not just screwing around here. These are some great pop protectors. We own a multitude of these protectors. They are some of the best I've seen. Stop buying from EB Games. I'm not boycotting EB Games by any means, but their pop protectors are not as good. So again, use code Funko Popcast for 10% off.
All right, so we'll move on to the last section of pops for this podcast. These range from October 12th to October 16th, which kicking off October 12th, Funko had announced pops of K2SO with Pin and Moroff from the Star Wars lineup, which will be a part of the Across the Galaxy set exclusive to Amazon. And these are expected to release as early as February 2022. On that same day, DC Comics had announced their own exclusive pop of a metallic Peacemaker from the Suicide Squad, in which this is available for pre-order now and is expected to release as early as March 2022. On that same day, Funko had announced a new set of Foodies pops, which we got ourselves a Captain Crunch box, Crunch Berries box, Fruit Loops box, and a Trix box, which these are expected to release as early as December 2021. Then on October 13th, Funko had announced a set of military Navy pops, U.S. Navy pops, which essentially will be the same thing as the other military pops we have gotten, where we have 3 sets of male and 3 sets of female, each having a Caucasian, Hispanic, and African American military personnel, in which these are expected to release as early as November 2021. Then on October 14th, Funko Europe had announced their own exclusive pop of a Freddy Funko with basketball jersey, which this will be given to people who purchase over 50 pounds, I believe that's the sign, of items on the Funko Europe website, or 50 pounds or over. Then on the same day, Funko had announced as a Funko Shop exclusive a Tiana with gold dress with a pin that will be a part of the Disney Princess or Disney Ultimate Princess lineup, in which this is available now on the Funko Shop, or at least it was available then. Who knows if it's sold out at this point. And last but not least for this podcast, DC Comics had announced another exclusive pop of theirs, which is a Diamond Collection, The Flash, which this is available for pre-order now, and it's expected to release as early as March 2022. So kicking off with the Across the Galaxy pops here for this set, which we have K2SO and we have Moroff, which I know that K2SO, this is one of those remakes of a pop that already existed, except there's a slight difference to make it different besides the pin. Pretty sure K2SO, if I'm not mistaken, was a character in Rogue One. So I think we haven't gotten this character since 2017 when Rogue One was released. And this is pretty decent. I like the detail of the back battle damage on essentially what would be the droid. I think it's really cool. I like how they did that. And you get a pin with it, which is pretty decent. And more off, which I don't remember if they made a pop previously. I feel like this is a newer character. I could be wrong. Maybe they made it, but I just don't remember it at all. But this is pretty decent. It kind of looks like a mix of Chewbacca and a Wampa. So I guess that's pretty cool. And it's got some sort of like muzzle, I guess would be a proper name for it. And it's got that blaster, I'm going to have to call it. These pops are pretty cool though. Then we have a metallic Peacemaker, which this is okay. This, unlike, what was it from last week? I can't remember what it was, but we talked about another metallic DC pop from maybe it was King Shark from a few weeks ago now as I think about it, but this actually makes sense to be metallic for the sake of the helmet or the face mask that Peacemaker is wearing, because it is more of a metal attire. I don't know how I feel about like the actual attire itself of his shirt and pants being metallic. Then we have the Foodies pops. We got Captain Crunch, Crunch Berries, Froot Loops, and Tricks. These are okay. I mean, we also already knew about these because these were actually announced during, I believe, the Fun Days reveals back in July. But for some reason, it took them this long to actually get some glam shots released for these. But these are pretty decent, I guess. I mean, that's what happens when, especially with the Crunch Berries and the Captain Crunch, it's literally the same mold. The Froot Loops is pretty cool, especially because we haven't gotten a Toucan Sam pop in years, or actually, yeah, in years, because now I totally forgot about the metallic pop. That was a 1,000 piece that we actually did discuss about on the podcast a few years ago. But anything close to a new Toucan Sam pop, that's pretty cool that we got this. And especially with the box we have here, it looks to be retro Froot Loops box. So this kind of gives a little hint that we could be getting a retro Toucan Sam pop very soon, which I hope that's the case. And I think this is pretty decent. It's probably my favorite of the Foodies pops we have here. And then we have the Tricks box, which is also pretty decent. I like how it's a different mold instead of the same one where it's holding a bowl of cereal, even though I don't mind it because Tricks is a pretty good cereal. I had a taste of it for the first time like a year ago, I would say. And I like the cereal. I think it's pretty good. Then we have America's Navy, as it shows on the glam shot here. And this is pretty decent. I mean, we already had the Air Force, the Marines, and the actual U.S. Army pops. And now we have America's Navy, which is pretty decent. I hope to see more of these with different kind of, I want to say officers and different personnels, depending on the job that you work for as terms to the military. I think that would be cool to have more pops like that. Then we have the Freddy Funko with the basketball jersey, which this is also pretty cool. I mean, it's cool that you get this for free if you order more than, I'm going to say $50, even though you can see on the sign, it's not dollars, it's pounds, but there's also two different signs. So I don't know what the one is, but I know one's definitely got to be pounds. And this is pretty decent. I don't really know what else to say. I like the colors involved with this, and it's simplistic, but it's cool, especially because, like I mentioned, for like the fourth time already, you get this pop for free if you order more than $50, I will say, or 50 pounds with your purchase on Funko Europe's website. The Tiana with gold dress, and it comes with a pin. This is pretty decent. I didn't even know that this was like a new pop. I thought they already announced this, so I almost forgot to add it to this podcast, but it's pretty decent, especially because also with this pin, they're doing the thing they did with the Pop Around the World lineup where you can now purchase a book to place different pins in. So I think there's going to be probably about 10 more of these pops, if I were to predict correctly. They already have two of them, the one with the FunCon Snow White, and then we have this Tiana now, which makes it the second. And they did announce two of them during a Funko live stream, but I didn't mention them on the podcast because we'll wait until they release glam shots and they release it on the Funko shop. But I think I'm pretty sure the other two are Cinderella and Ariel as two other pops so far in this lineup. And then judging by the book I've seen, I think there is going to be a total of 12 of these Disney princess pops that will have pins, and you can collect all the pins if you wish. So this is pretty decent, and I'm sure that it's going to be a huge seller with this set of pops. And I guess also to mention before moving on to the next pop that I do like the idea of these gold Funko Shop exclusive stickers. I think those are pretty decent to make the pops more unique also. And to end off the podcast this week with this pop, it is the Diamond Collection Flash, which this is I don't know what to say. I don't know whether I'm going to say this is bad or this is good. I'm kind of on the fence there. I mean, I'm not really a fan of Diamond Collection to begin with. I think we've said that for years on this podcast, but I don't know. Maybe some aspects I kind of do see it like making a little sense. Like, I mean, with like the electricity portion of the Flash running fast, maybe it makes sense. But like when you look at the attire, it's like, does it really make sense? Does it? I don't know.
Okay, starting off with the new Star Wars pops for the Across the Galaxy line. These are all right. I mean, I don't know. I feel like these would be pops that would be kind of shelf sitters if they weren't exclusive to Amazon. But overall, they are pretty cool pops. The More Off pop is definitely cool. I really like the character design. And I can't remember where I've seen this character from. I remember seeing like maybe it was a, what do you call it? The Black Series figures. I think there might be an action figure of him already. And that's kind of where I'm thinking like, oh, we've seen this already, but it's definitely cool. And I definitely like that kind of face mask thing he has going on. It might be some kind of breathing apparatus. I'm not too sure, but they're decent pops. Then we have the metallic Peacemaker, and this is all right. I don't know how I feel about the metallic going on with the clothes. It seems weird because obviously those clothes aren't metallic, but for the helmet, like DK had said, it makes a lot of sense. It's all right. I feel like it might sell decently just because I feel like there is some hype over this character. Then we have more Foodies pops, and I'm not a huge fan of Foodies. I mean, some of them are really kind of cool because it's stuff we haven't seen, but we've seen pops of Captain Crunch. We've seen Toucan Sam. We've seen the Trix Rabbit, and just getting these boxes is kind of meh in my opinion. What I do like though is that they did the Crunch Berries box and it's exclusive to Hot Topic, which is awesome because the sticker and the box will look very well. Not the box for the pop, but the actual box of cereal, I guess. The figure itself with the sticker, both being yellow, I think will look really, really cool. Then we have the pops for the America's Navy. And yeah, there's not much to say because we've kind of already talked about pops like this. And I have the same opinion on them. They're great. I love how it's very inclusive where there's different nationalities or races, I guess you could say, and obviously both genders, which is cool. Just a great idea. And overall, I think that this lineup should do well with all the different ones they have. And it would be really cool to have a full collection of every single one. I think that'd be sweet. Then we have the free Basketball Freddy, and this is awesome. I love when they do free pops, especially when it's a Freddy Funko. That's really cool as well. And this one looks great. I love how the orange hair matches the orange on the attire. And I think that color of blue complements it very, very well. I don't know if this is supposed to be designed for a certain team or not, but it definitely works. Then we have the Tiana with pin, and yes, that gold sticker is phenomenal. I think that is such a smart idea, and it definitely makes these pops more unique. The gold Tiana itself is actually not too bad of a pop, and I also love the idea of having the book to put the pins in. I don't know if I would necessarily do that because I'm obviously an inbox collector. So taking the pin out, I feel would just like it would look weird on the shelf without the pin inside of the box. But having the book is awesome. And it really reminds me of the Revenge of the Sith figures where they had that awesome book that had all the silver coins that you could put in it. It really reminds me of that, which is super cool. And last but not least, we have the Diamond Collection Flash, and this is awesome. I really enjoy this figure. I think it looks really good in Diamond Collection, and that is something that doesn't come out of my mouth very, very often. So yeah, this looks awesome. I love how you kind of have the lightning bolts around the feet that look really cool with Diamond Collection, and just the whole attire itself looks great. Diamond Collection. I don't know what it is about it, but it makes it look electric, I guess would be the best word to put it, and that makes sense for the Flash.
Anyways, guys, that is going to be the end of this week's podcast. If you enjoyed this week's edition of a Funko Podcast, make sure you smash that like button, comment in the comment section below, and let us know your thoughts about this past week's Funko Pop announcements. Press the subscribe button for more content like this podcast and any other videos we do on this channel in the future, and press the little bell beside it to be notified of when that future content gets released. And if you guys haven't yet, follow us on all of our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at A Funko Podcast. It'll be listed in the description below. But anyways, guys, thank you for listening to this week's podcast and hope to see you guys next week for our top 10 Funko Pops of October 2021. 1, 2, 3, I'm out of here.
Silly rabbit, tricks are for kids. Peace in, peace out.